Hey, what is up, friends? You're watching Fancy Pants Media, the YouTube show that is all about visual marketing and story marketing, just to help you get dialed into what you're doing. This is Friday Morning Live. Today we are talking about the best of CES. Now we're going to look at some products and some things that CES had to offer that we think that you would really like. First off, I have to say my favorite thing from CES was the Panasonic GH5S. That thing looks like a low light beast. I'm excited. I want to get my hands on that thing and just shoot with it. But today we're going to be talking about three things that you probably didn't see at CES. And the reason that we're highlighting these three things is because Engadget did a piece on the best of CES 2018. And one thing that these brands did was they told a great story when they launched. And that's super important. There are some things I want you to take a look at whenever we talk about these products. And that is the triad of emotional storytelling. And the triad goes like this. The first is the heart, that the story of this brand has to hit you in the heart. The second part is the head. It has to make you think about your context and the way that you are living your life and telling your story. And then the third is the gut. You have to have a gut reaction to some of these things. And these three brands did a fantastic job about telling a great story, and some of them even positioned from a market that they weren't in into a new market. So let's check that out. The best of CES. First one I think is the Sonoma. The Sonoma is a pair of pajamas and I know that sounds crazy, a pair of pajamas, but they are smart clothing and they have a monitor on them. The reason that they have a monitor on them is because they were created for patients in hospitals or homes that have dementia. So the whole thought process is, instead of limiting these patients to one area, that they would give them freedom, that they can walk around, that they can live their life to the fullest within a facility or within a home, and that all the tracking would be done through the clothing themselves. This is a great story to tell. One is because it makes you think, it makes you feel, and you should have a gut reaction if you are somebody or know somebody who is dealing with this. And what they did, they decided to tackle this problem, with empathy, and they decided to do something really amazing with this technology. So that's a great story. I really like what they did here. As far as like the quality and the comfortability, I don't know. They also look a bit like they were made for like an American Eagle like body. So I think that might be a miss on the presentation. But nonetheless, great idea, great thought process. Let's move on to number two, which was LOreal's UV sensor. Now, LOreal is a skincare company, and the amazing thing that they did was they transitioned into the technology wearable space. Now, I don't know if you can see on this video, that red arrow is pointing towards her thumb. Yes, her thumb. I said her thumb. What's crazy is LOreal is all about skincare. They make these skincare products, but they authentically transitioned into the tech wearable market because this is a product for your skin. It is a wearable device that is not a watch, that is not on clothing, that actually is like a press-on nail type thing. It doesn't have a battery, but it connects to your smartphone. And the story that they're trying to tell with this is that you need to watch your UV exposure in order to keep your skin healthy. This is a great complementary tech product to some of their products that they have already. Genius, pivotal move, and it's authentic. It doesn't, it's not outside of their brand in any way, shape, or form. I really like this idea. That's a great story to tell. There is so much I could say about this. One thing is I hope it's waterproof. I would love to see like a commercial with this in action. That's kind of like around the idea of what a mom has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Because one thing that I think about, and it just goes through my head being a parent, is that tech wearable, is that like splash proof? Is it poop proof? Because if you're a mommy and you are, changing diapers and that thing like falls into a diaper, like, can you still wear it? It sounds gross. I know, that's just where my head goes. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. In Southern California, this is kind of a problem because the weather is so nice that it feels really, really good outside that you don't realize that you're getting sunburned or that you've had so much UV exposure. So kudos to L'Oreal, doing a great job. The link is right here. It's Engadget. You can search all these on Engadget. Fantastic, fantastic. Next one, I'm gonna have to warn you, might tug at your heartstrings, but this is fantastic. It is the Aflac robot duck. I was gonna say Aflac, not Ben Affleck, but Aflac robot duck. The cool thing about this product is that the people at Aflac spent their money developing something for kids who are diagnosed with cancer. Aflac promises to give this duck to every kid diagnosed with cancer in the US this year. That is a huge win because this duck is meant to comfort these kids when they are going through chemo, and it is a very, very noble cause. One thing I like is it hits you in the heart, it hits you in the head because you're thinking, what can this technology do to bring comfort to kids? So it's just a very, very interesting, surprising that they would spend their money in the tech realm doing this, but I feel like this is another great story because it's genuine. Along the same lines, I wrote a book, In the Storytelling Heart, we talk about another company that is all about solving problems in a very, very human way. The Aflac robot duck does that, but here's a story that I want to tell you, and it's also in the Storytelling Heart. It's a book you can pick up. Just go to my website, nicovaya.com. It's at the very top. The infant mortality rate in third world countries is extremely high. And the reason it's extremely high is, one, because nurses in third world countries can't necessarily use the technology. Sometimes they don't understand it, or they don't have the education to really know everything that, like premature baby warmers, like how they function. And the second part to the infant mortality problem is that a lot of premature babies are born in rural areas, and these devices and these machines are actually in big cities. So for a mom to make a trek with a newborn premature baby, it could be dangerous, and there's just a lot of obstacles. This one company that came out of MIT, they decided to try and tackle this problem. They knew that education was a barrier, and they would have to have a solution that would work in rural areas. So they went to India, they studied the problem, and what they came up with was this fantastic story. And they found that the bottom line of premature babies, the mortality rate being so high was this one underlying cause, and it was the baby's temperature. So they found a simple solution on how to maintain the baby's temperature just using a few everyday household items that could be deployed in a rural area. It's a great story. And all that to say is, in your marketing, in your story marketing, you can tell a great story. And you might feel that people are telling you that you're wasting your time marketing like this brand or marketing this thing that they don't think is going to have a lot of traction, but you have to stick with it, because once you tell a great story about a brand that you believe in, magical things can happen. And that story is in the Storytelling Heart if you want to check out more of it. But yeah, I just want to encourage you, tell the best story that you possibly can for these brands that mean something. I started out telling stories for nonprofits that didn't have a lot of money, but that were doing a lot of good. And I still believe in that. I also believe that these brands, like high dollar brands like L'Oreal, are doing a really great thing. So I believe in telling the best story for whatever brand you have to manage. Let's move on to question and answer time. I have a few questions here. Hey, Aflac robot duck. Let's jump into this. First question, Alex asks, where do you see the video market going this year and the next 5 years? I'm gonna have to say I'm really biased when it comes to this because I know what I want to see of the market this year, and I would love to see brand films. Now, brand films are this. A brand film is when you can take the core identity of like a brand, and you can put it to a narrative, and it looks really cinematic. We've seen Wrigley do that before. They had a great commercial in 2015. We've seen a lot of brands doing this during the Super Bowl, and they're spending a lot of money and a lot of time, for these Super Bowl cinematic quality ads. And I think they should be doing it every quarter. There are a lot of brands to keep an eye out for. There are some brands in the UK that do Christmas films. They're called adverts out there. I think it's Lewis in the UK. It's one of the biggest retailers in the United Kingdom. They just crush it when it comes to these brand films, and they tell the stories that hit you in the heart and the head and in the gut. They really go after that, that marketing triad, the emotional triad. So I would say that's what I would like to see. Secondly, I feel the next 5 years that augmented reality and virtual reality are going to be huge, and that you have to start taking your time to understand these technologies so that way you can tell the best story on that platform, because context is going to change. Let me give you an example. This year, Intel at CES, they showed voxels. And what voxels are volumetric pixels, meaning that when they shoot a football game, they're shooting from cameras that are up above and cameras that are on the side. And then these computers with Intel chips are rendering these images in 3 dimensions, meaning that there's going to have to be some sort of animation and some sort of, stitching these things together. When you put on these VR goggles, you can't actually see the whole thing, so the computers are going to have to fill in the gaps or stitch these pictures together in a really crazy way. And that is a technology that I see is going to be blowing up, but you have to be able to understand that so you can leverage it when you start to tell your brand story or whatever you're working on. So that's what I'm thinking. Second part of that question, he says, how do you go from a one-man show to a team? I don't know, honestly, because I'm still kind of like run and gun solo myself, but the best work that I've done has been with a team. And I'll tell you this, I feel that in the current, just the way that current things are going in media, if you have a small team, you don't need to think about it hierarchically, meaning that you're on the top and your team works for you. I think you should think of teams as a circular entity, not a pyramid entity, but a circular entity, meaning that you might be coming up with ideas, you might have somebody else executing on these ideas, and you might have somebody else marketing these ideas. And that's going to flow in a circle. And you want to continually, create content that brings in income, that allows you to do more content. And it's like a circle, and it's like a cycle. And these positions that you have for your team are literally going to be this. They're going to keep that cycle going. So if you have a pyramid, it's hard to have, that cycle or that circular motion within a pyramid. So I wouldn't say think about things hierarchically. I would say be authentic in what people's roles are and how they keep that cycle going. That's a great question. Next question, final question, is from Martin. And Martin asks, if someone said, here's about $1,000, what camera would you get? I love these questions because I think about gear and packages in dollars and amounts anyway. First thing, if you're into photography, I would say the Fuji series, the XE3 is a great camera, that with the 23mm lens. The reason I love Fuji is because all of the buttons and dials are on the camera themselves. You don't have to go fishing through menus, which, Canon and Sony's menus are some of the worst. Great picture quality, but you're gonna have to memorize 15 different menus, which is a faux pas. What I love about Fuji is the aperture is on the lens itself. So you change the aperture on the lens like an old rangefinder camera. The ISO, the shutter speed, all of those things are an actual physical click on the camera. And when you take a picture, you can see what happens. It's great for beginners. It's great for people who are well-versed in knowing how to use a camera. It's just a good camera system. There is not a camera system like it on the market for photography. They're going into the video space, and the X Pro 2 or the XT2, XT20, great cameras. I'm going to drop a link in the description below so that you can check out those cameras, because they just hit me in the heart, because those are some great cameras. If you're into video, I'm going to say that that's a different answer. I'm going to say Panasonic is really crushing it when it comes to video. I would look at the Panasonic Lumix G7 or the G85. And the reason I would look at these is because, one, they're really inexpensive. 2, they shoot 4K, and 3, they have great color. And that's kind of hard to find all in one. And Panasonic is really thinking about, their consumer, and they have a camera the whole line up. So if you're a consumer, prosumer, or if you want to go like with the EV1 or the EA1, their new cinematic camera, they're crushing it. Like, they are just blowing it up. So I would say those are my two choices if you have $1,000 and you want to spend it on photo or video. So guys, thank you for joining me for this Friday morning live. If you have any questions, you can hit me up here in a comment below. You can go over to my Facebook page. It's Think Better, Nick Ovaya. And if you just want to hit me up on the Twitters, you can follow me at Nick_Ovaya. And until we chat again, I hope you tell the world a great story. Peace.